What's up, guys? We're back here for the finale of The Boys.
Yes.
So in this video, we kind of wanted to talk just about the finale and maybe a little bit of episode 7, just because there's a lot to talk about in the second season, and it's kind of like, right now, we're just in the mood to talk about the finale because we just watched it.
And it was really good. I guess there's no other words to say. I think it blew away my expectations because I was expecting, us to get some deaths, but not really have like a bunch of things kind of close out and set into a new arc. Well, I mean, obviously they were going to do that, but like in just a grandiose way. Yeah, I really liked it. So, what do you want to cover first? Do you want to do a short recap or just like go right and explode?
So we can talk about obviously all the side plots had been coming together from the start of the episode. We had the Church of the Collective side plot with Deep and A-Train.
We had the Stormfront.
We had the Stormfront. We had Compound V. Yeah, basically that was kind of the main.
Yeah, Compound V becoming exposed or like having the.
Yeah, getting released to the public in the military, and then we also had a kind of concern about like Butcher, what's gonna happen with him, his wife, and his kid, kind of. So we've had all that, and then a lot of other things. First of all, episode 7, I think it ends with some explosions, right?
I believe
of knowledge.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting ending. Coming into the finale, Josh and I really didn't know what to expect. Like Josh said, we expected some deaths, but there really was a lot that happened. I feel like it was almost 3 or 4 episodes packed into an hour.
Yeah, they did a really good job of having like a pretty brisk pace and covering everything, and I think they did a good job of because with like the big things that are going on, there's also some things that are going to be like emotionally. They're trying to like impact, they're impacting the characters either emotionally, so that's, in turn supposed to reflect on the viewer, right? And I think they did a good job in executing it to where I think it landed pretty well. Like I was like, especially what happens around like Butcher specifically and like, how you'll see his stance or kind of, I guess, motivations behind like his master plans going forward. I think that landed really well. We were kind of talking that, because we know a little bit about the comic. I think Michael might know a little bit more because he's researched it. But, I think if you're just watching the show, there are some moments that I think are set up in a way that, like, you'll see, like, some things coming. Like, I think, like, the storyline with the kid is one that you'll see, but I think it's really well executed. But for comic readers, I think this is really where it's going to like blow you away if you've read the comic, because there is a nice little remix there that diverges pretty heavily.
There's a lot of like nostalgic moments for comic readers, because you have where Stormfront gets injured, that happens in the comic in a different way. But I think it's really just like the overall tone. We've talked about how in this story, no one's good.
Right.
But no one's really completely bad, except maybe we'll see 1 or 2 characters will be completely bad. But obviously, if you read the comic, you know that pretty much everyone's bad in the comic.
And it's because they're evil.
And they're all pretty much evil, or going to be corrupted to be evil. And we get to see some of that in the finale, but I think it's more realistic or relatable. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get into speculation too quickly because we should talk about this. Overall, I really liked the Church of the Collective story. I think it was kind of open-ended, but
yeah, that one is. I like where it left off, but I am worried a little bit that we're not going to see it again, or at least I think if it shifts a little bit towards focusing more on the deep, then that will be probably a little bit more interesting. But I don't know if the whole church is out, because there is some. I guess we could talk about it. It's kind of a spoiler, but the head of the church ends up biting the dust, and so I don't know. That was really the only component we saw that was like the face of the church for the season. So having more of that kind of shown later on, I hope is coming, because it kind of seems like a throwaway thing if he's just dead because of. Who we see
someone wants to kill him.
Yeah. But I think it's overall fine there. I think more so, I like how that connected back to the main plot, because we do have A-Train kind of getting late into the collective, but then eventually using the resources of the church to harken back to the main storyline of trying to take down Vought in like the quote-unquote right way.
Yeah, it just stopped them from doing what they were planning on doing, which is releasing Compound V to everyone in the world, basically. But and therefore taking over the world. But yeah, that's something that's a lot different than the comics. Is that A-Train is such a more nuanced character than whereas in the comics he's really just kind of a bad guy who bites the dust fairly early. But yeah, overall there was a lot of twists and turns. I think something that you don't see much, kind of like in many shows now, is being unpredictable. Now there are some like through lines, like Butcher's arc is we've seen that kind of arc before, and we don't know where it's going to go. But the episode wasn't predictable, and honestly, going in, I thought I knew what was going to happen, and I really didn't. And especially if you're a comic reader, you thought what was going to happen, but.
I think it's almost
changed.
Kind of not. I mean, I don't know. I know that when I've watched other adaptations of comics, it is kind of sad when they, deviate a little bit. But at the same time, I think they did it really well. This is almost like an alternate way for like a certain character. So I don't know. It's exciting. At least for me, I think Karl Urban. I don't want to say he carries the show, but he has such a strong presence on the show that it would have been really a shame if they would have gotten rid of his character early or gone a different approach. So, I like the way that they decided. Man, hats off to both him and the guy that plays Homelander too, because man, they steal like every scene they're in.
Yeah, they do steal a lot of scenes, and it is very intense. Did a very good job of upholding tension or bringing up tension throughout the whole episode.
Now, I will say the one thing that it's not done bad per se. But it is one that I feel is the most lackluster, and that is with Maeve.
I was gonna say that too. Actually, her character art in the finale and in the show so far is very. We don't get to see her much, so
yeah. And I feel like there's just I don't think it landed that well throughout the season, but it was like, okay, well, they're leading up to the potential, she has dirt on Homelander, but she's also kind of expendable, so she could die because the tape exists. And so, I don't know, it wasn't that I wanted her to go necessarily, but it was kind of weird because it felt like they were kind of building her up to be somebody that is going to contribute to something later on that the boys will be able to use, but overall, or ultimately end up being a sacrifice, or just a character that, is just meant there to be collateral damage or, be killed off. But I don't know. It's just kind of disappointing, but I guess the one nice thing about it is that potentially she's going to get better development in the third season.
Yeah,
she's still there.
The only thing that I think we talked a lot about how it's more realistic, or the ending is dark, but in a way that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the comic doesn't, but it's just two different kind of genres. But
right.
I do feel like one more character probably should have died here. I feel like this is going to be because it does seem like it's too clean of a wrap up,
Oh yeah.
So obviously, Season 3 is either going to have to... Probably what they could do is do a time skip where the kid is going to have more of an active role as a teenager and know his powers, or and everything is good and one character is going to be close to president, and that's when we hit this, we come back to it and things are wrong again.
Well, on the flip side of that, we do have, I guess, the unveiling of the person behind the head exploding, and that is the one government chick that has been, I guess... I don't remember what her role technically is in the government.
I think she's running for Senate currently, but yeah.
But she's
running again.
But she's definitely, I think, probably the biggest surprise information. So depending on how they work that out, it'll be interesting because of just how they have that relationship with Homelander and the president,
with what her motivations are. Yeah,
and then the story from the comics. So how they remix that will probably be pretty interesting, but.
That's the only thing. That's the only thing that kind of I was like, this is a little bit too clean, and I know probably season 3 is going to go to garbage again, and everything's going to be awful.
That is one of the other mainstream things shows do, though, right? Especially if they have a darker tone. Is oh hey, here's the feel good thing before we rip it out from underneath you. I think overall. It was still very entertaining. I thought overall the season wrapped up nicely. There is some things, like we said, where even though some of the other components are a little bit disappointing, I think they overall are done well. For instance, even though we talk about Maeve being kind of disappointing or just kind of a throwaway character, like you pointed out when we were watching the episode, it is a very believable stance that she has. Like there's a scene where Starlight and Huey go to visit May to, enlist her in some help. And her response is very genuine for somebody that lives in that world and also has that experience with the Seven already and however many years that she's had with them. But it is still like one of those things that's like, yeah, we've seen kind of like that before. But the kid, I think, too, is actually one that's well done in terms of how they write him to react to certain things. The only thing that I thought was a bit weird or a bit weak was the death that we got in the very end that's associated with him. It seemed, I don't know if it was the kid's performance or if it was like the directorial decision to have him like so far back, or if it was just like the dialogue or like the way like he says goodbye to his mom. I don't know. Overall, that did not land too well.
It did look a little weird, but I mean, maybe he's socially awkward, so his brain couldn't like process the situation.
But I do like that, we do get the point where like he's not just like writing his mom off as like evil, or he's like, yeah, fuck my mom, like I'm with you, Dad. Like we do see him kind of like regret what he said to his mom, and like I feel like that's more organic or more realistic.
Kids do that all the time. They say something.
Than just like the stereotypical show where you'll see like a kid do that and then like stick to it, and then like it's not till like seasons later that he's like, I was wrong.
I was
yeah.
So I don't know. I'm excited to see what season 3 has. I think it is a little like the only is very nitpicking because I really enjoyed the episode, and I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. But it did seem like everyone has hope right now that's going to be crushed, obviously, because we know that everyone is bad. And I feel like it would have been better story maybe if either if it was Queen Maeve or one of the characters is just like totally in despair, and then like they turn out to be right, obviously, when everyone's evil.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it feels like, at least with this show, because you have main characters that for the most part are pretty vulnerable to the villains if they are in the room. It feels like some of these other characters that are kind of neutral or kind of like the moral gray, but like sort of help them from time to time. They have to be there in order to give the heroes some sort of semblance of being able to survive in certain situations. But I would really like to see, though, like you said, a time skip or something that maybe allows for, not to say like I don't want replacement of characters since we already have good characters. And I don't necessarily want there to be an explosion of a cast, because I think sometimes when you get a cast that's too big, it kind of dilutes the show, kind of dilutes the characters and the stories that you can tell with them. But at the same time, if they are wanting to keep it like a hard-hitting show that like, you don't know who's going to survive for the next episode, it would be nice if they did bring in some other talent to the show so that, if there is some sacrifices made or some big deaths, that we kind of have some way to off-balance that. But I guess it just really depends, right? Because we know that Amazon's the most successful show. We know that they're probably going to want to have it last for as long as possible. So, trying to, say that, it's just going to follow the comics, it's like, maybe not.
Yeah, and I'm excited. Like, so far the actor for Homelander has done a great job. We talked a little about this, and I don't want to be too long. This is just kind of a last point I want to make. So in the third season, he's gone full crazy. He's gone full insane. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they write scenes for him as an insane person who like literally has nothing to lose.
I think it will be pretty interesting because he's got, like you said, nothing to lose. So it's a great point. I can't really add more to that. I am excited for season 3. I think we're pretty close to it though. So
money. Everything's about money.
Yeah.
So. We'll get another season here pretty soon.
Maybe we'll do another video about speculation for the third season. Maybe look a little bit more about the source material.
Maybe give a final rating for the second season.
That would be nice. Probably come back for a full review. This is just kind of like the finale. Like, holy crap, we watched it and it was great type deal. So if you haven't yet, go rewatch it because I would assume you got spoilers. But anyway, we'll get out of here because, like you said, you don't want to make it too long. But hope you guys have a good time and you can check out our other stuff. So we have the Other Boys episodes if you want to check that out, and we'll be back for more.
Later.
Peace, Alex.